extension offer. The federal government has assured Nigerians and all key stakeholders of adequate low-sulphur petrol and compressed natural gas promotion. Minister of Environment Balari Lawal gave the assurance on Sunday while inaugurating the Interagency Committee on Fuels, which promotes using low-sulphur fuel and CNG. This is coming on the backdrop of reports of high-sulphur fuels choking Lagos, Africa's most populous city. Although now illegal, high-sulphur fuel is banned in Europe. The minister explained that using cleaner fuels would significantly reduce air pollution and human health challenges caused by high sulphur in petroleum products. Mr. Lawal further stated that Nigeria industrial standards for sulphur concentration in petrol, diesel, and kerosene had been reviewed, which was made possible by the ministry's mandate and the support of the critical stakeholders. Earlier this year, the NMDPRA began enforcing a 200 ppm sulphur cap on gas oil imports, which was further reduced to 50 ppm in June. And ppm there actually is the par. Okay, that's the measurement for fuel, and that actually is okay. I'll get that now, parts per million. Now let's talk about this issue of adulteration and high sulfur being found in petrol in Nigeria. Joining us is Ayodele Adio, who is the managing director of ASCOM. Good to have you join us, Mr. Adio. First, what is the reaction to this report about high sulfur fuel in Nigeria?
I think it's a very damning report because the report just goes to give credence to some of the arguments that we have been making in the last couple of months, that the petrol that is being imported into Nigeria has very high sulfur content that is not only damaging to our environment, but has very gross health consequences, for citizens across the country. Now, Nigeria actually ranks number 4 in the world for death-related illness that is connected to air pollution. In fact, 114,000 people die every year from, complications resulting from air pollution. So it's not just an economic sabotage that we cry about when petrol is being imported into this country. It's also the fact that it's killing engines, whether it's generator or cars, but it's also killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens. And so this report comes at a time where our voices are, is the loudest, speaking against the continuous importation of petrol, especially now at a time where we have sort of developed the capacity to meet local demand to a very large extent, given the Dangote refinery that has come upstream. And I believe that it's time for us to fit that importation of petrol. Yes. All
right. If you look at these controversies, yes, indeed, you've mentioned the fact that Dangote refinery is up and running. But are we actually able to get enough to serve the entire nation and perhaps also have something to export? Because that has been the concern, really, about whether or not Dangote refinery is able to service the entire nation.
So there are 3 things involved in this question that you've asked, which is one, whether the local refinery can meet local demand. Well, there is clear evidence that the refinery will be able to meet local demand in the next couple of weeks. It meets currently a sizable amount of the local demand, but I believe that it will meet that demand in the next couple of weeks completely. But the PIA is also clear that in the event that your local refiner cannot meet local demand, what you should import is the difference in supply gap that the local refiners cannot meet. But it goes a step further, which also regulates the quality of the petrol that should be imported, given those circumstances, which should not exceed 50 ppm. Unfortunately, the petrol that was tested by the laboratory in Lagos and in Port Harcourt was showing high sulfur content of about 800 ppm, almost 40 times, the approved level. So these are the issues that we're speaking against. So I think the third component of your question, obviously, is also about meeting local demand, which is the fact that we have to get our refineries to begin to work locally. We cannot continue to use the excuse of petrol importation when we have the capacity and have spent trillions of naira trying to get back our local refineries to work. If we get our local refineries to work, and if the Dangote refinery continues to function at optimal capacity, then we'll have no reason to import petrol any longer into this country because it's economic sabotage and it great health implication for our citizens.
But let's talk about price. We know we have only recently read about Dangote refinery reducing the price to all marketers from 990 to 970. But then, is it logical? I mean, how do you see the pricing? Because these imported fuels are believed to be cheaper compared to what we produce locally.
But that's the question that we've been answering. The reason it's cheaper, or the reason you think it's cheaper, is because what is being imported are substandard. It's of low quality. That's the problem. The local refiner here, which is Dangote refinery, has a quality of 10 ppm. The report shows clearly what was tested in Lagos from the petrol that was imported was showing 800 ppm, which is 80 times more the approved level. So the reason that this argument about they can import petrol cheaper is largely because they are going to import substandard petrol. There is no way that you can import petrol into this country, given our current foreign exchange, the landing cost and all of that, that will be cheaper than the local refiner, except the quality, obviously, is dubious and suspect.
So, Mr. Adio,
that's the elephant
in the room, right? So what is the way forward? Yes. What's the solution?
I think the solution is very clear, and the solution is to transition completely away from the importation of petrol products and to ensure that our local refineries work, while also those private sector actors in the local refining process are also, given the enabling environment to thrive. So Dangote has to keep functioning, but we also have to do the heavy lifting of fixing our refineries, and that way, we can form an equilibrium.
Managing Director, ASCOM, Ayodele Adio, thank you for talking to us on TVC News at 1.